Welcome to today's edition of the Rush 24/7 podcast.
And here we are, revved and ready to go, ladies and gentlemen. Broadcast excellence, the Rush Limbaugh program, the most listened to radio talk show in America. Happily back at it. Hope you had a wonderful Easter and a wonderful weekend. A telephone number is 800-282-2882 if you want to be on the program. The email address, lrushbo@eibnet.us. Okay, so the Norks launched a missile on Saturday that blew up the moment it left the pad. The rumor going around is that we cyber-hacked the North Korean launch system, their computer system, and guess what? The drive-bys are not wasting any time in crediting the Obama administration for the high-tech hackery that the Trump administration was able to use. So eager have the drive-bys been. We probably should have figured this, but look at all of the months that have gone by here. We're coming up on 100 days, and the drive-bys just jumped on this. And it demonstrates how eager they have been to try to credit Obama for anything that's happening. But the problem with that is that they're bashing everything that Trump does. Therefore, there's nothing to credit Obama for. And except this, which is a stretch. So on Friday, here's what happened. The Chi-Coms who've done a 180 on the Norks, it appears, at least temporarily. The Chi-Coms told the Norks not to do another nuke test. Apparently, by the way, the world was shocked when this pot-bellied little dictator over there, Kim Jong-un, this is the strangest little country. The military in that can literally think of the leader as a deity. They start crying when they see the guy. Now, maybe they're crying because they know they're going to be sent to their death. I don't know. But they start crying when they see the guy. And he's just, you seen that haircut? We're not supposed to comment on people's appearance, but come on. Who knowingly styles their hair that way? And it's not like this guy has to wear a helmet and is worried about helmet hair. One of the goofiest looking tyrants that you've ever seen. The guy doesn't look scary. He looks, well, whatever. That's as far as I'll go. Probably in the era of political correctness have gone farther than I should have. Anyway, little pot-bellied dictator is standing there reviewing the latest Nork military weapons in a parade. You seen those military people goose-stepping like that? And even they have women in combat in North Korea. And they were goose-stepping too, which means they had to be wearing dresses when they did it. It's a strangest looking thing. It reminded me of, you remember last time the Olympics were in China? And it was the Summer Olympics when Phelps was, when making like a fish and breaking every water record there was. And the opening ceremony, do you remember the opening ceremony? You never forget it, right? The drive-bys referred to it as some of the most beautiful pageantry we'd ever seen. And they started there he is. Look at Fox right now. There's a little pot-bellied tin horn. He's gone now. He was pointing out something about weapons to some military people. I really can't believe everybody's getting up in a fever pitch about this guy. But they are, because he does have nukes. At any rate, the pageantry of the Olympic opening ceremony. And the drive-bys were ecstatic and impressed because China, of course, if you're Thomas L. Friedman, New York Times, China is the way to go. The Chinese have an elite group of people, 10 or 12, 20, whatever, and they run everything. The smartest people, they don't leave it up to anything in the private sector. The elites run everything, and that's what we ought to do. And the pageantry, the beauty, the choreography, and all of that was true. But you know what I saw? I saw sameness. I saw every person looking exactly like every other person, behaving like every other person. I saw, and it was on display, exactly what happens to the individual in a socialist or communist system. We see this in the Norks military period. All of those people goose-stepping around in perfect timing and choreography. At any rate, they're all walking by, they're goose-stepping by, and then some trailers carrying the latest missiles go by, and apparently intelligence people all over the world were shocked by what they saw. They saw what looked like a North Korean ICBM, an intercontinental ballistic missile that could travel 7,000 miles. 7,000 miles. Stop it. 7,000 miles in an airplane is going to take you, 23 hours? It's 7. Now, I know we have these, but the Norks do. The Norks can't aim what they've got now, so when they ever would fire one, it's a crapshoot where it's going to end up. And that's a problem. 7,000 miles. It's no wonder the people of that country are starving. Anyway, they could tell this just from looking at it. So it changed a little bit, at least according to the news that we're supposed to consume. It changed a little. Sometimes I think this news is made up in order to portray a new enemy as a real threat that we've got to get serious about. Of course, the Norks are not a new threat, and nobody's been able to do anything about them. And by the way, nobody has ever forced the Chi-Coms to turn on them. Nobody before Donald Trump. Now, that's not supposed to happen. That is not supposed to compute. The Chi-Coms were supposed to make mincemeat of Trump. And it turns out that the Norks are losing patronage from the Chi-Coms because the Chi-Coms told the Norks not to do another nuke test. And the Norks didn't. They didn't do another nuke test as they had promised. Instead, they launched one of their a new medium-range ballistic missile in celebration of this gigantic parade the little pot-bellied dictator presided over. And that's the missile that blew up within seconds of launching. The rumor is it blew up because it was hacked by U.S. cyber experts. And, of course, the drive-by media is claiming that Obama and his administration developed the wherewithal to make the hackery possible. Now, here's the thing. 88%, I don't want to be a Debbie Downer here, folks, but 88% of Nork missile launches have failed. But if you're Obama looking for something, why not take credit for it? So they did. And it's now Mike Pence is on the DMZ. He's over in South Korea and making no bones about what the Norks face if they continue with this. And the difference in the equation is the Chi-Coms. The Chi-Coms are indeed using leverage over the Norks to get this curtailed. For whatever reason, the Chi-Coms do not want any more provocation from the North Koreans upsetting whatever is going on between the Chi-Coms and the United States. Here, grab audio soundbite number 2. This is CNN Today. We have a montage. Actually, it's not just CNN. It's people at the Fox Business Network and others trying to give Obama credit for hacking the Nork missile.
The Obama administration accelerated this secret program to sabotage these missile launches, including electronic warfare hacking.
President Obama back in 2014 said that he would use cyber attack as a way of trying to undermine North Korea's missile program.
In 2014, President Obama ordered increased cyber and electronic strikes against North Korea's missile program.
Is this failed missile launch perhaps an example of efforts started inside the Obama administration?
This is not transparent or what? Are they so 2014? How come, if the Obama administration perfected all this back in 2014, why has it not been used until now when Trump sits in the Oval Office? In fact, Trump had it was at the White House Easter egg. They're doing the Easter egg roll today. It's cute. I've seen some of the footage of the Easter egg roll. It's a fun day for the little kids that get to show up and so forth. But Trump was asked if he had a message for North Korea. And it was 2 words: gotta behave. Gotta behave. You just love the guy. Gets down, gets it, gets out. Audio soundbite number 1. This was Fox and Friends this morning. Pete Hegseth filling in, spoke with the trial attorney and Trump supporter Robert Barnes about the chief strategist Steve Bannon and his allegedly diminished position in the White House. Question, you've seen these news reports that Steve Bannon's on his way out. What do you make of those reports?
The media has been waging a 5-month war against Steve Bannon because, as Rush Limbaugh said last week, they know how valuable Trump has been able to tap Steve Bannon's unique set of skills. They know that Bannon helps Trump and that Trump has masterfully utilized Bannon's unique set of skills. He's sort of Trump's personal Moab that busted through the Democratic firewall. Trump may be the original Jedi, but Bannon's the last Jedi against the empire of media lies. And that's why they've been waging such a war against Bannon.
Yeah, this is the kind of stuff that Bannon supporters should not be saying. This is not cool. This is positioning Bannon as the reason Trump is who he is. This positions Bannon as the guy who makes Trump possible. This positions Bannon, I mean, Trump may have been the original Jedi, but Bannon's the last Jedi against the empire of media lies. Mr. Snerdley asked me this morning if I think anything's going to happen to Bannon. No, I don't. Not anytime soon. I think all of this is a bunch of, pardon the phrase, trumped up. I mean, there may be something to it to one degree or another, but I think it's exaggerated and overblown. And much of what you see in the media is really the reporting of their desires. They would love, they're eager for a scalp, folks. The drive-bys, that's what they do. They are eager for a scalp. And Bannon is one that they think they could secure, and they think they're on the verge of doing it, which is another reason why I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. University of Wisconsin-Madison is offering free tampons in the men's bathroom. It's a new pilot program to provide free menstrual products in several of its campus bathrooms, including some men's restrooms. Asked why women's hygiene products are needed inside men's bathrooms, Steve Wagner, spokesman for the school, said menstrual products will be available in all of the bathrooms of the Red Gym so that they are available to any student who might need them. It appears the products are needed in men's bathrooms to benefit transgender males. For those of you in Rio Linda, that's biological women who identify as male. So if a guy walks in and thinks he's a woman and needs a tampon, it will be there for him. The 3-level Red Gym houses the institution's lesbian, gay, and transgender campus center, the Office of Multicultural Arts Initiative, the Multicultural Student Center, and a variety of other student and academic programs and divisions, according to its website. So University of Madison, Wisconsin, on the cutting edge. NBC Sports. I have been waiting for this. I did not predict it. I did not mention it even once on the air. Privately, I've been waiting for this. NBC Sports. The American flag at baseball games is too political. When the Atlanta Braves unfurled a gigantic flag for the playing of the national anthem, it prompted an ultra-sensitive member of the media and his Twitter followers to express a host of ridiculous claims. We're talking about the NBC baseball writer Craig Calcaterra. He complained that the presentation of the American flag evoked overly political tones. And he and his sports writer comrades used the occasion to attack the flag, the military, President Trump, conservatives, and the singing of God Bless America. I've thought this was coming with the attacks on the remove of the flag from certain sporting events, people alluding to this. The left does not like tributes to the military before sporting events. That's overtly political. Remember Tom Brokaw and Dan Rather, a bunch of news anchors way back then, refused to wear American flag lapel pins because it showed bias? and they couldn't show bias. They were news anchors of the world, and they could not show that they favored one country over another. They didn't want anybody to think they were biased toward or for the United States. Not making it up. So I've been waiting for this, and this is either Colin Kaepernick taking a knee, refusing to stand for the national anthem. The flag had to be next. Sporting events, particularly football, they cover the whole field now with a flag, with a legion of people holding it while the anthem is played. And baseball is in God Bless America at the seventh inning stretch, and it's irritating to many on the left. This overt patriotism, it's obscene. And it's too political, and remember the survey that we had out of Harvard University? Now a couple years old, but they found out that depictions of the American flag, such as prior to sporting events, inspires people to vote Republican. Remember that? You do now that I mention it. Harvard did a big survey. They found, talking about the 4th of July. The 4th of July itself, Independence Day, makes people more inclined to support and vote Republican. Same thing with the flag. This is one of the reasons why I think the left has a secret mission, if you will, to try to do whatever damage they can to all American sports because of the linkage to the flag, the linkage to patriotism. It just offends them. It bothers them. So, and this NBC Sports, this is not television. This is the NBC. There's NBC has a website where they feature many sports, football, NBC Sports Talk, baseball. This guy does the baseball blog at NBC's website, and he's got the ball rolling here with the flag being too political. So this is going to get picked up. Okay, I got to take a break. We come back. Something as innocuous as tax reform. Well, it's not innocuous. But it's not secret. The AP has, but I hadn't heard about it until I saw this. Sort of a revolutionary possibility, idea for tax reform that is percolating even now at the White House and Congress. Details when we get back. Don't go away, folks. Okay, so I'm perusing Real Clear Politics during the break, looking for any late-breaking audio sound bites, and I see this headline. CNN's Fareed Zakaria, GPS. That's the name of his show, by the way. Fareed Zakaria has a show on CNN called Fareed Zakaria GPS. Now, GPS means Global Positioning Satellite. So, I don't know what the GPS means in relationship to Fareed Zakaria's show, but get this headline. CNN's Fareed Zakaria GPS, were Obama still president, he would have ordered similar, if not identical, strike in Syria. Really? So I read further here. CNN's Fareed Zakaria GPS discusses his experience with Trump derangement syndrome, where people's hatred and anger towards the president is so intense. Oh, that's right. Fareed Zakaria's come out against people who won't get over Trump, who won't get past Trump. You know why? Because Fareed Zakaria agrees with the strike on Syria. He thinks it should have happened. And he thinks people opposing it just because they oppose Trump is dangerous. And then in making his case, he went on to say that he's talked to some Obama people. And Obama's people told Fareed Zakaria that if he were still president, Obama would have ordered almost the identical thing. Really? Really, after a bunch of red lines that Syria crossed numerous times, Obama's out. Hey, I would have done it. I would have done it. I would have done it if they were still there. No big deal that Trump did. I would have done it. It's like Bart Simpson. Welcome back, El Rushbo meeting and surpassing all audience expectations every day. By the way, check during the 8 years of the Obama regime, and North Koreans had 8 missile launches, missile tests. If Obama had developed this wonderful hackery, if his administration had seen to it that this degree of computer cyber attack had been developed, why didn't he use it on any of those 8? Now, giving him the benefit of the doubt, supposedly the cyber hackery tech was not perfected until 2014. And, of course, Obama's last year in office was 2016. So I don't know how many Nork missile launches there were then. But the point is, all these missile launches, while Obama's president, nothing happens to them. They launch a missile during the Trump administration and were able, theoretically, that's the story anyway, to blow it up literally seconds after it left its launching pad. And there's Obama's media out there claiming, Obama did it, Obama did it. And now Fareed Zakaria is out there saying that a couple of Obama people told him that if Obama was still president, he would have done the same thing in Syria that Trump did. What is this? It sounds like somebody's feeling really insecure out there. And if it's not Obama, his supporters are. In normal circumstances, what you would have, Obama would be ridiculing what Trump did to support Obama's strategy of draw red lines and don't do anything. Normally, you would have Obama, if he was consistent, he'd have people out there suggesting this is warmongering, it's needless intervention, this is not what our successful policy of the last 8 years has been engaged in. Instead, we got piggybackery. We got Obama one, hey, I would have done it. I would have done the same thing Trump did. I could have done it. If I were still there, I would have done it. Just like Bart Simpson coming along. Same thing on the nuclear missiles. Now, before we get to the tax cut, and there really is lurking in a couple of tax plans, there is a dramatic reform being contemplated. And I had not heard of it until I ran into strangely enough, an AP story over the weekend. But before we get to that, let's talk about the special election in Georgia tomorrow. This is the 6th congressional district. That's the district that was Tom Price's seat. Tom Price was chosen by President Trump to be the new Secretary of Health and Human Services, which necessitates a special election to replace him. It is a solid, historically solid Republican seat. And what's happened here is that there is one high-profile Democrat who is seeking the office by the name of John Ossoff. And there are something like 11 or 12 Republicans vying for the seat on the Republican side. So the Republican support is being divided at least 12 ways. On the Democrat side, the support's not being divided by very much at all. And there's a lot of money pouring into this race for the Democrats. Democrats have, for some reason, put a lot of emphasis on this. The Democrats are looking for a win anywhere so that they can then say that the tide has turned on Trump and that people realize they made a mistake. And whenever people have a chance to vote against Trump and support a Democrat, they do it. Now, they were all prepared to do that in Kansas, but it didn't happen. The Democrat lost in Kansas, but the Democrat got within 8 points. And so the media said it was a moral victory, that the Republican should have won that seat by double digits. And it proves, quote unquote, that people are losing their excitement and fervor for Donald Trump. So this race tomorrow, Republican seat, big stakes. Democrats throwing money from all over the country in here. You know what their plan is? You know what their opposition is? The Democrats still, they've got a major problem, my friends. Well, they've got more than one. They actually have beaucoup problems. And most of them they haven't yet admitted to themselves. Their entire reason for being right now is they are not Donald Trump. They believe in the world in which they have created, the cocoon in which they live, and with the able-bodied support of a media which props them up in their surreal false realities. They believe that a majority of the people in the country have turned against Trump, are on the verge of it, because, like them, everybody now sees what a buffoon Trump is, and everybody regrets voting for Trump. And if they had it to do over again, they would have voted for Hillary. And so these elections are there and ready to demonstrate this. Their strategy, their plan, the Democrats' agenda doesn't exist, at least not one that they can admit publicly. Their complete strategy is vote for us, we are not Trump. They continue to lie to themselves. They continue to mislead themselves. They continue to live in this land of false hope where they believe their dreams and their hopes and their desires are in fact reality, and that everybody shares the same dreams. So in the Democrat world, just because they hate Trump, they think everybody else is on the way to hating Trump too. And because they don't respect Trump, ditto. And therefore people are beginning to regret voting for Trump. You can even see stories about this. The drive-bys are now out trying to find Trump voters admitting that they're disappointed. And you know what? In a couple of weeks they found one. But they haven't been able to find a huge number of Trump voters who regret it. So they're just manufacturing that narrative in all of these special election votes. Now, here's the thing about the one in Georgia. Somebody's got to get 50% or more, or there will be a runoff. With 11 or more Republicans in this race, there is no way one of the Republicans is going to get 50%. So it's going to boil down to whether or not the Democrat in this race can pull off 50%. Look, there might be 15, 18 candidates total vying for this seat. And I know a lot of Republicans in Georgia are a little frustrated because the Republicans are tearing themselves apart. They're all running ads against each other. And so it's it's a circular firing squad as far as the campaign's concerned. The Democrat, there's one lone Democrat here that has a chance. There are a couple, outlying candidates, but it's this Bossoff guy that the Democrats have put all of their hope in. And right now the polling is that he's at 40%. And the rest of the Republicans are dividing up the 60. And of course, none of them are going to get 50. So the hope is that it goes to a runoff where you have one Republican against Bossoff. And if that happens, the Republicans are going to hold the seat. But if the Democrats were to win this tomorrow, this is going to be because of a real lack of Republican foresight and planning. Now, I know you're saying, but Rush, any Republican run? Why should the Republicans get together and choose a candidate? Why can't anybody who wants to run? Well, yeah, but granted, but the objective here is to hold the seat and to win it. And if you can't come up with a consensus, then okay, here's what the primary's for. We'll roll the dice and see what happens. But it does result in a Republican circular firing squad because they're all running ads against each other, as well as some ads against the Democrat. Meanwhile, the Democrat candidate, his ads are totally against Trump and these Republicans for supporting Trump. Now, I don't know what's going to happen in this special election. I can only give you some idea what's going to be said if the Democrat wins it. And it isn't going to mean anything if the Democrat wins it because there are so many Republicans divvying up the vote. But that won't matter. The media is going to have their story, and it is going to be, my friends, it's almost going to be as big as if Hillary had won the presidency. Not quite, but if this guy Bossoff wins this seat, Tom Price's seat, you better brace yourselves for the way the media is going to cover it and what they're going to say it means. But even if he wins it, it's not going to be because people are voting for the Democrat. It isn't going to be because people prefer Democrats to Trump because this guy doesn't have an agenda that he's announced. The Democrat agenda is we're not Donald Trump. And again, it's based on their belief that people are embarrassed of and opposed to and now tired of Donald Trump. And that's how the media will portray any Democrat election victory from here till 2018 and the midterms. Let's take a brief time out. We'll come back and weave our way into this tax reform proposal. All right, before we get into the tax reform, and I'm not trying to just tease you along here, I've got a call on the special election in Georgia, and I want to go to it. We're going to start in Florenceville, Georgia. Stuart, great to have you. How are you doing, sir?
Hey, great to get through. Listen, I've been in Georgia for a while, and I've seen all the ads that John Ossoff has ran, and all the latest ones are him standing there looking at the camera saying, I'm John Ossoff, I'm a Democrat, but I hate wasteful spending, I hate government growth, I support our military, and there's $16 billion in redundancies I want to get rid of, and then the ad ends. That doesn't sound like he's supporting any liberal policies at all, and I think that's part of the reason he's getting so much support in a conservative area of the country.
Well, maybe, but don't forget how many Republicans are in this race. I'm getting a confusing number depending on why. It's 11 to 18 to 12. How many Republicans are seeking this seat?
Oh, I don't know. I haven't looked at the ballot. The election's tomorrow.
Well, believe me, there are at least 11 Republicans that you're going to find on this ballot, and they're splitting the vote. So don't think this.
I completely agree.
Well, yeah, this Ossoff guy is the only prominent Democrat in the race. Of all the Democrats, they've only got one place to go, and that's to him. But you got Newt endorsing one guy. You've got a former Trump, Karen Giorno, who worked for Trump during the primary. She's endorsing somebody else. They're all running campaign ads against each other. But look to your specific point, that this guy, in any of his commercials, is he talking about Trump?
You know, I haven't seen many of his commercials. I think I'm the demographic he's trying to get to. I'm a fairly young guy, college educated, that type of person that I think the Democrats are trying to get back, that historically skipped out in the election. And they know that we're sort of jaded against the Democratic Party because they're not as compassionate as we thought. They have these horrible policies, and so we just see ads on TV. And, this John Ossoff guy is a young guy. He seems reasonable. He's not for government spending. He wants to get rid of redundancies.
Wait! You just said you haven't seen the ads. How do you know what he's saying if you haven't seen the ads?
No, I haven't seen ads that John Ossoff is against Trump. The only ad that I've seen is John Ossoff standing there at the camera saying these three phrases.
Okay.
I support the military. I hate government spending. I hate government growth. I don't like the $16 billion in redundancies. And then the ad ends. And, I'm John Ossoff and I support this ad. That's the ad that it's prominent in my mind that I've seen over the last few days.
All right. So that's the only ad you've seen.
That's right.
Okay. Is there more ads than that running, or is that the only ad they're running?
Well, I don't know. I've seen more ads, some for the Republicans against John Ossoff, saying he's a liberal and that sort of thing. But the majority of the ads that I've seen for John Ossoff are just him looking at the camera.
The problem is, as you've just stated, there isn't a Democrat in a free world who believes what this guy just said.
Yeah. The thing is that I think the Democrats will take any vote they can get, and I think they'll
take any vote they can steal.
Yeah, exactly.
They'll take any vote that they can register. Okay, look, there's no question conservative district and campaign. This is why it's an interesting observation. If what you say is true, then this guy's not running. That ad, at any rate, is not being run as an anti-Trump. He's trying to get in on the action. He's trying to get in on what he thinks voters in that district prefer. The problem is, if he gets elected, he's going to immediately start kowtowing to the Democrat leadership, which is Pelosi and Steny Hoyer and all the others, and it isn't going to matter. So we'll see. Here's what you have to do in circumstances like this. You have to factor the media into this. Now, to those of you living in the Georgia 6th District, just want you to know that we are following this, too, and we're watching. The media's got this guy on the verge of winning, and the media's got this guy on the verge of wrapping it up, and the media's on the verge of saying this means that Trump's already starting to fade, and that the people of conservative district in Georgia, they're willing to say they don't like Trump anymore. Trump's not who they thought he was, and they're beginning to see that Trump is not the answer. They can't wait to write this stuff. And I think their desire and their anticipation is inflating what this guy's odds are. I'm sure he's polling well. He's the only Democrat in the race that matters. But my caution to you is, actually, should I tell you this or not? I don't want to depress turnout here. But my experience is, well, just remember Hillary. She was going to win in a landslide. Trump was 30% of the vote if he was lucky. Maybe 25 electoral votes. Hillary was going to mop the floor with Trump, even as far as the media was concerned, on election night. And all of their polling data supported this. There's old buddy Nate Silver out there at 538. Yes, Hillary Clinton with a 95% chance of being... And every Democrat believed it. The Clinton campaign believed it. And they do this. This is a race made to order for this kind of media malpractice. Because with this many Republicans splitting the vote, there's no way a Republican's going to get close to 50%, but the Democrat might. So the media could very easily be exaggerating. And it could well be that tomorrow night when the votes start coming in, that this Democrat doesn't get anywhere near 50% like they are. They're projecting him at 40 right now. But they're saying it could break. It could break big on election day when people actually go in. That 40 could get close to 50. They're always rounding it off upward. But if intelligence guided by experience is any guideline, the guy isn't going to do as well as they are reporting, and their reporting is based on their hopes. So it's likely that there will be a runoff, even with the polling now, which may be showing Ossoff a little higher than he's actually going to get. There's going to be a runoff, and that's going to be a damper. Because the Democrats, and to me, they want to win this thing outright tomorrow. I got to take a break here. We'll be back. Don't go away, folks. Okay, let me give you a little hint. I want you to think about something. Imagine tax reform. A tax reform plan that eliminates FICA, that eliminates the payroll tax, which is the primary funding mechanism for Social Security. Imagine a tax reform plan that does away with that. That is a 12.6% tax elimination from everybody. Everybody pays it. Even people that don't pay income tax pay payroll tax. More coming up. I don't know. Some days it just gets to me. Some days it rolls off my back. The other days this is one of these days it's getting to me. All of these establishment people now go crowing about the fact that Trump's finally becoming presidential now that he's speaking to moderates in Washington. They're giving him the right policy on taxes and giving him the right policy on Syria and the Middle East and giving him the right policy on immigration and so forth. These damn establishment editorial op-ed people. Anyway, folks, greetings and welcome back. It's great to have you. No, I'm not going to name names because it doesn't matter. Pick one. Pick one. There are just a bunch of never-Trumpers claiming that they're now having success in converting Trump away from the bad influences that got him there. And now he's listening to the better angels, which are the Democrats that he's surrounded himself with. Anyway, it's a crock anyway. But they're out there now crowing that finally Trump's becoming an adult. Finally, Trump's becoming somebody we can write favorably about. Finally, Trump is reaching the levels of almost potential that we always hoped he had, like these arrogant SOBs that think they should be president but couldn't get elected dog catcher in Syria, claiming to know everything Trump wanted. I better weigh it back in here. Well, part of this is I had a lousy day playing golf yesterday. I'm telling you, they need to make prisoners play this game. You know, you go out, you can shoot, in my case, my first ever 76 3 weeks ago. And yesterday, I didn't hit one fairway off the tee. And I had a duck hook. Nothing good ever happens when you go left. Nothing. Ever. Anywhere. Anytime. It took me 9 holes to figure it out. I was cocking my wrists too soon in the backswing. And it was causing me to roll my wrists. There are a whole bunch of little things. You know what the enemy of golf is? An IQ. The people play golf better than anybody are people that don't think about anything, especially what they're doing. They just go do it. Anyway, welcome back, folks. Great to have you. 800-282-2882. If you want to be on the program, the email address is lrushbo@eibnet.us. Just a couple more points on this Georgia special election. The Obama remnants are involved in this. That's how much the Democrats hope that this election will allow the media to say that Trumpism is over. It won't be, even if the Democrats win this, it's not going to mean that at all. Because if the Democrat wins it tomorrow, it's just going to be because there are too many Republicans dividing the Republican vote. That's all it'll mean. Anyway, the Obama people have sent Julian Castro in there, of the famed Castro brothers of Texas. San Antonio. They're the sons of Rosie Castro, who is one of the most lifetime radical Democrat operatives the nation has ever seen. Look her up. Google Rosie Castro, and you'll see that. And she is the mother of Julian, and I forget the other Castro's name. They were both Joaquin, exactly right. For those of you in Rio Linda, Joaquin is how it's spelled. Anyway, there were grand ideas for one of the Castro brothers to become president one day, and it hasn't. What was going to happen was Obama, first African-American, rah, rah, yay, yay. Then Hillary, first female, yay! Democrats historic, the first. And then it was going to be first Hispanic, and it was going to be Julian Castro. And, Hillary is now, there's even more out on this book about her campaign and what an absolute witch this woman was. Or I should say is. But what a witch she was to the people that worked for her. It's everything that we've always suspected about the Clintons. And you know what else is in here? You know what else in this book? The media knew all along that she was running a deficient campaign. They knew all along that Trump's rallies meant something. They knew all along, when weeks would go by and Hillary wasn't even showing up in public, much less to do a rally. She just wasn't showing up in public. They knew all along that it meant something. They knew all along that because Hillary didn't have any confidence to go out there because she wasn't going to draw a crowd. They knew all of this. This is classic. You get a book on a campaign following an election written by journalists who knew all this stuff during the campaign but held it for their book, but knew it all along. So all the while, Hillary's campaign is known to be a clunker, while all along, while she is known to be a bad actor, all along known that Trump's campaign is real and these rallies are substantive and he's got all of the energy and his campaign has all the excitement. They knew all of that, and they knew she was cruising for trouble, but they maintained the myth that she was still headed for a landslide win because she was Hillary Clinton, the smartest woman in the world. They knew that there was open revolt in her campaign, that she was just downright mean and disrespectful and off-putting to people that were. We've always heard about the Clintons that they behave as a, particularly Hillary, as a above everyone type of royalty, where you're not even allowed to look at her, much less speak to her. You must go through intermediaries. We've always heard this about her. This book lends some credence to that. Anyway, Julian Castro, who was a member of Obama's cabinet, is rallying support for John Ossoff, rhymes with, who is the leading Democrat candidate in this election in Georgia to take the seat of Tom Price when he became Secretary of Health and Human Services. Julian Castro, who served as Obama's Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, met with supporters at Ossoff, rhymes with, office. Pictures of the event were posted online Saturday. Castro was also mayor of San Antonio before he was tapped to join the Obama regime. Now, this Ossoff guy is a former aide to Representative Hank Johnson. Does that name ring a bell? Does the name Hank Johnson ring a bell? Well, it should. Let me tell you about Hank Johnson. Hank Johnson once strode to the floor of the House and worried that too much of the population of Guam lived on one side of the island, and the weight of the population was going to cause the island to capsize. He was worried that the population living too concentrated in one side of Guam was either going to cause Guam to sink or capsize or something. Not making it up. And when Hank Johnson said it, it was typical. Media covered it. They didn't really want to go there. They acknowledged that Hank Johnson's had some challenges lately, but he's a decent guy. He's a great Democrat. And he has lots of compassion, and he's worked hard to help the underprivileged and the downtrodden, and yada, 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 yada. Did everything they could to avoid reporting on it. This is lunacy. And by the way, where did Hank Johnson get this theory? Global warming. It starts at global warming. Populations are going to cause islands to capsize because of rising sea levels and the weight of too many people living on one side of the island. Anyway, this Ossoff guy was a former aide to Hank Johnson. And Samuel L. Jackson, noted now angry activist of the Democrat Party, is in there campaigning. Samuel L. Jackson is mad now. It seems anytime he's in public, he's mad about something. So he's in there campaigning for Ossoff, rhymes with. And so is Elisa Milano. She's an actress. I don't know what she's been in. Donors have reportedly contributed $8 million to Ossoff, rhymes with. Meanwhile, on the Republican side, as I say, 11 or 12. And the special is Tuesday, and got to get 50%, or there is a runoff, top two candidates on June the 20th. And according to Washington Examiner, Ossoff likely will make the second round of voting, but will probably lose in that contest. What that means is that Ossoff is polling at 40, probably will not win tomorrow, And when it's just Ossoff rhymes with and one Republican in June that the Democrats lose. That's according to early polling data now. And that's pretty much sums it up on that special election tomorrow. White House is exploring new directions on tax reform. And one of the interesting things I ran across, it wasn't really obscure, but it didn't stand out. It wasn't highlighted or heralded anywhere else. I found it actually in the AP feed. That there is a possibility the Trump White House is considering using tax reform as an opportunity to get in there and do something about entitlements. Now, if you go back to the campaign, Trump made a big deal now and then out of the necessity of reforming our entitlements, that they're out of control. Many of them are redundant. They're taking up way too much of the budget. And somebody needs to go in there and do an analysis and trim them down and fix them. Otherwise, serious budget reform is going to be hard to do. But nobody has ever been able to come up with a way to do it because entitlement reform requires somebody reforming Social Security. And whenever anybody suggests doing that, they're cooked. They are done. Social Security, as you know, the third rail of American politics, meaning if you step on it, you die. If you touch it, you get electrocuted, and that's it. So there are very few people who even talk about, as candidates, who talk about Social Security, other than to say it's necessary. Remember when George W. Bush wanted to privatize some of it. Remember what happened. It would have made all the sense in the world to do it. It would have been one of the greatest in terms of fiscal responsibility, privatizing a form. Actually, the wrong term, privatizing. All the policy was allowing Social Security recipients an opportunity to invest a portion of their money so that it could grow larger than Social Security does. But it was immediately dead because the Democrats came along and said, well, this is nothing more than a payback to Wall Street. Do you really want to turn over your Social Security to Goldman Sachs? And it was dead, even though Goldman Sachs has it already anyway and is running with it every day, and the rest of the country as well. But that's all it took to kill it. You want to let Wall Street handle your Social, and what happens when they lose it all? What happens if, and it was only like, to start with 5%, it was nothing. It was just a starter program to wean people off the government and let them invest that portion of Social Security on their own with the hopes of growing it much faster than it grows government, because the dirty little secret is it doesn't grow. It's broke. But now, Trump tax reform is devising a plan, the Democrats will call it a scheme, to tackle it head on. Here's the upshot of it. And it's not the only aspect of tax reform here that's been proposed and is being discussed. TheHill.com here even has a story, not on the area I'm going to get into in a second, but they write this: the White House signaling an interest in moving the tax reform debate in a different direction. A House tax reform blueprint released last year as part of Speaker Ryan's Better Way agenda had long been viewed as the starting point for tax reform. During the campaign, Trump's tax plan was revised to more closely resemble Ryan's. But the Trump administration is now drafting a new proposal, with officials considering a range of policy options beyond what Republicans in Congress have put forward. A White House spokesperson said that Trump is getting feedback from stakeholders to help develop a plan that will provide significant middle-class tax relief and make American businesses more competitive. Now, the Washington Post is saying that what this means is that the White House was looking at a VAT tax, a value-added tax, which is a sales tax at every level, every sale, from beginning to wholesale to retail. and a carbon tax. Now, I remember when the carbon tax was leaked weeks ago as being a central portion of the Trump tax reform plan, there was an outcry because a carbon tax is a Democrat idea. Well, a carbon tax is an establishment idea. A carbon tax taxes everything. Everything's carbon. Your body is carbon. Everything is carbon. Monoxide is carbon. Carbon is carbon. Oil is carbon. Gasoline is carbon. Everything is carbon. Can't have life without carbon. Carbon tax everything. The left likes it because they position it as a means of saving the planet. The theory is that by taxing the use of energy, people will use less energy, and using less energy will save the planet. It will also destroy economies. The Trump administration jumped up and denied that they were ever contemplating a carbon tax and that they are not contemplating a carbon tax. That was some weeks ago. Now it's back. The Washington Post is saying that Trump's tax plan, which differs from Ryan's, is back to including a carbon tax and a value-added tax. The AP says, nope, there is no carbon tax. The Trump administration's pushing back, saying that a VAT and carbon tax are not under consideration. What is under consideration is eliminating the Social Security tax. FICA, 12.6%. Theoretically, the employee pays 6% of it. The employer pays 6% of it. In truth, the employee pays all of it. And if necessary, I will explain how that is. The employer doesn't pay a dime into Social Security. The employer makes the payment, but the employee is paying 100% of that 12%. In the real world, the employer's not matching a damn thing. You are paying all of it. But if you eliminate it, you've just eliminated the funding mechanism of Social Security. So what do you replace that with? You need a new tax. If you're going to fund, and if you remove FICA, if you get rid of the payroll tax, you are then eliminating Social Security as a donation or contribution program and converting it to a straight welfare program. Yes, this is quite interesting, and I'll get more into it after this. Now, the Ossoff guy, he looks a little like Pajama Boy. You remember the ad the Obama administration ran for some government policy, Obamacare, some such thing? And it was sit down at your computer and sign up at healthcare.org, whatever it was. And it had this guy in his pajamas. This guy looks just like the Pajama Boy. It was kind of a rude awakening for us. We all thought, oh, man, this is not good. And it turned out it related to a lot of millennials. That's how they are seen. So anyway, that's who this guy is. Best I can find, his TV ads do not mention Trump. They mention things Democrats don't believe in. Like reducing spending, economic growth. But he is in a conservative district, and that's what the voters there want, so he's trying to convince them. Now, here's the thing. If you eliminate FICA, let me give you some numbers. At $60,000 a year, if you make $60,000, eliminating FICA will give you an additional $3,500 in income. $3,500 per year that you do not pay in taxes. Now, what I've seen so far, there is no plan to cut the personal income tax rates. Just eliminate FICA. Just an idea here, because it also permits the reforming, requires the reforming of Social Security. But in so doing, it would convert Social Security to a straight welfare plan as opposed to what it is now, which is, well, that's kind of what it is. But in theory, it is a contribution program. Let me explain when we get back here. Okay, if you're on the phones, hang on. We're coming to you El Quico. Here's how the AP reports on the plan. The theory here is that Obamacare gets repealed and replaced. So there's an entitlement done away with and replaced with something. That's number one. Remember Trump, big on entitlement reform during the campaign. And this is a backdoor way of getting into Social Security by eliminating FICA, which eliminates the funding mechanism. That would end the contribution-based funding system for Social Security and some of Medicare, because that's what the FICA deduction is. The payroll tax is how Social Security is funded. Now, keep in mind that Social Security, all of this rigmarole about the trust fund and the lockbox and all this, Social Security long ago passed that point where what you get back is what you paid in. But it still stands as the design, and that's what is meant by a contribution-based funding system. Means it isn't welfare because it's funded with your money. They deduct it from you. Oh, let me step back and explain this. For those of you who've been here for a while, please indulge me while I go through this. It's not an insignificant point. It is a great example of how you as a taxpayer are completely misled about your taxes and how much you pay and what it funds. Everybody thinks that on Social Security, the employer pays half and you pay half. That whatever the tax is, and it's 12.6% right now, and then some of your salary, you until you reach $138,000 a year, you have to pay on every dollar you make. And that floor keeps rising. But the point is, most people think that they pay 6% of their earnings. And the employer, the good guy that he is, matches it. It's a beautiful thing. And then the whole Social Security contribution is handled. In truth, you are paying all of it. The employer isn't paying a dime. He's making the payment for you, but you're paying it. Here's how it works. Let's say that you go to work at the Acme Widget Company, and the Acme Widget Company agrees to pay you $75,000 a year. That's your salary. But on top of that, they have to pay your health care and your Social Security and whatever else, whatever other benefits there are. So in truth, I'm going to make up numbers here for the sake of discussion. In truth is, it cost the employer $90,000 to pay you $75,000 take home. You just don't see $15,000 of it. You never touch it. It never comes to you, and you never have the use of it. But it's what it costs to hire you. Therefore, the employer is paying everything. Well, you are. You just don't see it. The employer's not matching diddly squat. They position it this way to make you feel like you're not paying the full 12%, but you are. If you're paid $75,000 a year and it costs $90,000 to hire you, then you're actually being paid $90,000. You just don't see $15,000 of it. Whatever. And I'm making up the additional 15. It could be 5 or 10, depending on what the benefits are and how much your health care costs the employer. But the bottom line is every dime of Social Security is coming out of what the employer is paying you. Okay. It's important to understand this because it's another example of how it's not an out-and-out lie. It's just a misrepresentation to make you not realize how high the Social Security tax is. I mean, if you're running around thinking it's 12%, your Social Security tax rate might be as high as your marginal tax rate is. So the plan would get rid of that, and that would mean for somebody making $60,000 a year, a tax cut of $3,000, $3,500. But now Social Security doesn't have a funding mechanism. Now, with this idea in structure that it is a contribution-based system, means your money pays for it. If you eliminate that, you're not eliminating Social Security, by the way. Let me be very clear. They're not eliminating it. They're just going to totally restructure it. And once they do that, it becomes a full-fledged welfare program as opposed to a contribution-based program. And whatever you get in terms of Social Security will no longer be based on what your contributions are because there aren't going to be any. Your FICA has been cut. So on what basis will you collect Social Security, and who will be able to collect it? And how is it paid for? Well, that's where the alternative tax plans come in, such as a VAT tax is one of the things that's been proposed, and maybe a border tax into the tariff. But the Trump administration continues to insist that a carbon tax is not part of this. Now, this plan was proposed by a Republican lobbyist with close ties to the Trump administration. And it would revise or transform Kevin Brady, the chairman of the Ways and Means Committee, would transform his plan on imports into something closer to a VAT tax by eliminating the deduction of labor expenses. This would bring it in line with World Trade Organization rules and generate an additional $12 trillion over 10 years, according to budget estimates. And then those additional revenues could then enable the end of the 12.4% payroll tax, which is split evenly between employers and employees, which it isn't, that funds Social Security while keeping the health insurance payroll tax and the Medicare tax would not be touched. And the Medicare tax, what is it now, 3.5%, 4%? So as I say, if you earn 60 grand, it gives you actually almost $4,000, $3,700 additional every year by not paying the payroll tax. And can you imagine that being ballyhooed on the campaign trail? By the way, this plan does not include a reduction in income tax rates, folks. This is the way they get around that. There is, in this tax plan, a reduction in the corporate tax, but there is no reduction in the marginal tax rates on income that are in place now. Now, one of the things that has to be considered here, because on the surface it's now, hey, man, this would be great. We get rid of the FICA tax. That means we get rid of Social Security. No, you're not getting rid of it. You're just changing the way it's funded. And in a contribution-based plan, you automatically have limits on payouts. For example, the old saw that you get back what you donate, what you contribute. Your Social Security every month is based on how much you paid, right? I mean, that's the theory. We're long past any of this being relevant, but that's the theory. The structural theory is that Social Security payments are rooted to and based on what the individual's contributions have been or the deductions have been. What if that's gone? Then how do you base the payouts? How do you determine what a Social Security recipient gets? And furthermore, how do you determine who is a Social Security recipient and who isn't? If you eliminate the funding of the program from donations and contributions by the taxpayer, and it becomes a straight welfare program, and you've got the taxes from other activities such as a VAT tax and other things that now create the fund that pays Social Security, on what basis is it calculated? Now, I'm sure there's a plan. I'm sure there's a formula. This story does not go into great detail on that. But there is, at least in theory and on paper, there's a limit to what Social Security payouts can be, which is based on how much you have paid over the years in terms of your FICA tax. You cannot collect more than what you've paid. Theoretically. I mean, we're long past that, but at least it forms some kind of a foundation. If you eliminate that and it's just a come one, come all welfare program, then how do you qualify? And who qualifies? And what's the monthly payout? And is our current recipients grandfathered at whatever their current rate would be until they pass away? And then if for millennials and others who are not quite there yet, a new formula is devised. I'm sure that's all part of the plan here. And I'm wondering how it's going to go over, depending on how it is sold, how it's presented. How many people would prefer a reduction in their income tax rate, leave FICA alone, versus how many people, man, you get rid of FICA, you get rid of that whole deduction, bring it on, dude, I'm all in. Well, then you better be clear in understanding, because you're going to expect when you hit whatever retirement age that you want to start collecting quote-unquote Social Security. You better be determining how much that's going to be and how you're going to get it and on what basis you're going to get whatever it is. As I say, still a lot to uncover in this, but I hadn't seen anything about this. Had you? I didn't see anything about this till over the weekend when I was digging deep, just in straight news feeds. Anyway, I have to take a break here. I'll come back and we'll get back to phones, as I promised, so don't go away. Your guiding light, keeping you on the cutting edge of societal evolution. Here is Steve in Valrico, Florida. Great to have you, sir. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm fine, Rush. Thank you very much for taking my call.
Yes, sir.
Megadittos. I'm a Trump voter, and I'm never tired of Trump.
I appreciate you saying, sir.
All right. Rush, my comment was on something you made earlier about the cyber warfare and the fact that Obama's vaunted cyber warfare team actually were the ones that took down North Korea's missile.
Yes.
Okay, well, I've been in cyber warfare all my military life, and I'm retired. We learn from offense the same things, and we apply them to our own defense. If that happened, then why, in fact, was Russia able to hack the election with our great cyber warfare capability being able to take down a North Korean missile?
Let me see if I understand your question. You're saying that you've been involved in cyber warfare, and when learning to hack and penetrate other systems, you also learn how to defend your own, right?
Correct.
And so you're wondering if we've developed under Obama this massive ability to hack something like the Norks nuclear launch commands, how in the hell were the Russians able to hack the Democrat National Committee networks?
That's exactly my point. Yes, sir.
An interesting question. What's your answer? I mean, how would you answer that?
Well, my answer is that we probably do have a very good cyber warfare capability, and that, in fact, the Russians never hacked the election.
Well, yes, they did not hack the election. Thanks for the call. They didn't tamper with the votes. You know, this is such a... the way the language game gets played. Russians hacked the election! Russians hacked the election! If people think the elections, some people, some leftists, believe that the election is illegitimate. The Russians didn't. There's no way. I'm blue in the face explaining this. However, have you noticed the consensus? No matter who you talk to in Washington, Republican, Democrat, CIA, NSA, DIA, Senate Intelligence Committee, House Intelligence, every one of them say, oh, yes, there's no question the Russians tampered and hacked into our election. No doubt whatsoever. Very bad. The Russians are committing drastically bad acts of ill will. There's no question the Russians were What were they hacking? What was the hack? I keep going back to this. They hyped the Podesta emails. It's not a hack. It's a phishing scheme. But my point is that everybody in official Washington admits, like it's just as normal as the sun coming, oh, yeah, the Russians, they were every day. They're hacking this or hacking that. They're involving themselves. Well, they didn't. They didn't affect the outcome of the election in terms of how elections are determined, the casting of votes and the counting them. So I guess what is meant, the Russians are constantly attempting to hack party and government networks databases and so forth. But it's nothing unique to an election. It's nothing that doesn't happen every other day of the year. And by the same token, we are trying to get into their computer networks. And it's the same thing. The Chi-Coms are trying to hack us. We're trying to hack them. The Norks are trying to hack us. We're trying to hack the Iranians. And we did. We spread a bad virus throughout the Iranian. We messed up with their nuclear program, set it back by 2 years with a Spetsnaz virus of some kind. So everybody does it. But they want us to believe here that something that the Russians did is unprecedented. It's never happened before. And it's just a crock. And keep in mind that the Democrats to this day have refused the FBI's requests to examine the Democrat National Committee network, computers, and system. They failed to get into the RNC computer network and the systems. The RNC let the FBI come in and look, and that was supposedly the answer. But you can ask a lot of questions about this. I think it's funny that Obama's media is trying to say, Obama did it, Obama did it. You know what that means? And this Fareed Zakaria, global positioning satellite guy, who's out there saying that two Obama administration figures told him, yeah, if Obama was still president, he would have done the same thing Trump did. Now, this sounds strangely to me like some Obama people are really worried here that Trump is succeeding in these areas and is doing things that they want to try to diminish. Oh, yeah, Obama would have done that, too, if he were still there. Yeah, there's nothing, no big deal. Rather than choosing to blow it up and say that Trump's running risks and all this, Obama's people seem to want to get in on it and thought of as just as prescient and smart as the Trump people are. So I just got an email. Rush, what do the Democrats think about this FICA item? I don't know, folks. It's relatively new. I can easily predict what they're going to say about it. They're going to oppose it like you can't believe and claim that it's a backdoor way on Trump and the Republicans' part to cut Social Security benefits. That's how they're going to oppose it. Now, look, folks, don't be like a bunch of frogs in a hot skillet. Don't go jumping around out there on this tax reform business, because it's just, there are three elements here. You got the House, you got the Senate, you got the White House. And this is the White House's plan, supposedly, to eliminate the FICA tax and replace the money with a VAT tax and create a new entitlement. Well, not a new entitlement, but to convert convert Social Security from a contribution-based plan to a straight welfare program. That's just one idea. It's nowhere near being done here. It's just, of all the tax reform proposals that I'd heard, I didn't hear about this one until this weekend. I don't know how old the news is, how long they've been bandying this about, but it's not in the Ryan plan, for example. If the Senate has, their own version of a tax reform plan, it's not in that one. So this has miles to go before it ever becomes a reality. And I think it's a real long shot, because the same old thing is going to apply. You touch Social Security at your own peril. What they're relying on here is Trump during the campaign talked about entitlement reform, and this definitely would be it. And this would come after they eliminate Obamacare and replace it, if they do, with anything. So that'd be one entitlement zapped. And then here comes something that Trump does that nobody said could ever be done, and that is reforming Social Security. The Democrats are going to scream bloody murder over this by claiming it's a disguised way of cutting benefits. I mean, that's part of the Democrat campaign every day, every year. They tell senior citizens the Republicans are going to kick you out of your house. They're going to kick you out of your condo. They're going to kick you out of your Stairmaster. They're going to kick you out of everything. They're going to take away your Social Security, and you're going to die in the street. They've been saying this for as long as I've been alive. So they'll say it again if this plan ever comes up. So it's way, way, way down the road. I just find it fascinating that it is being considered and pondered. But I do want to remind you of something. I'm sure most people have forgotten this. Do you remember the Obama payroll tax holiday? The reason I bring this up is because this plan, if it ever does get anywhere near the serious discussion area, the media is, because remember, the media leads, the Democrats follow. The media is going to raise holy hell over this, accusing Trump and the Republicans of cutting benefits and eliminating Social Security. I can just see the headlines now. But Obama gave us all a payroll tax holiday. It was in December of 2010. Obama traded Congress a 2-year extension on the Bush-era tax cuts for a 1-year, 2 percentage point payroll tax holiday and additional unemployment benefits. Now I'm sure it's starting to come back. Obama traded Congress a 2-year extension of the Bush tax cuts for a 1-year, 2 percentage point payroll tax holiday. And there were some additional unemployment benefits. The temporary employee payroll tax cut reduced the employee portion of the Social Security payroll tax from 6.2 to 4.2%. See, that alone, that right there proves that you are paying it all. Because note, they didn't give you the reduction. They gave it to the employer because the employer's paying it all anyway. For you. It's your money, he's paying. So what happened was, and all we heard from the media after this Obama tax holiday, payroll tax holiday, oh, how wonderful it was. And how many families it saved. My point is that a temporary 2% reduction in the payroll tax was heralded and just promoted, and it was just the greatest thing in the world when Obama did it. And if eliminating it comes along under Trump, I'm just warning you. So it's got a long road to go. Here is the actual soundbite for Fareed Zakaria, GPS, on his CNN show in which he portrays the two people he knows in the Obama administration say, we would have done exactly what Trump did in Syria if we were still in office.
The Trump administration watched a violation of Obama's 2013 deal and enforced it in precisely the manner that Obama had implied, which is why virtually every major Obama foreign policy official, from Hillary Clinton to Thomas Donilon to Leon Panetta, has supported the Trump administration's action, as did U.S. allies in the region and beyond. The strikes were discreet, measured, intended to convey a signal, and yet at the same time designed to ensure that the U.S. did not descend further into the Syrian civil war. In other words, they were very Obama-like. Two senior Obama officials I spoke with told me that were Barack Obama still president, he would have likely ordered a strike that was similar, if not identical, in scope.
Come on, Fareed! Who do you think we are? Now, let me tell you what spawned this. After Trump launched the 59 Tomahawk missiles, a bunch of Democrats and a bunch of people in the media all over the country instinctively reacted with opposition, with resistance, and with full-fledged hatred for Trump. And this worried Fareed Zakaria, GPS. So Fareed Zakaria, GPS, went to CNN on his show on Sunday and said, hey, you people get over it. You anti-Trump people, you're going too far here. All Trump did was the Obama administration policy. He starts it off by saying Trump administration watched a violation of Obama's deal. That means, this is crazy, what Fareed Zakaria, GPS, is saying is that Trump saw the Syrians cross Obama's red line. I made a joke out of this. And Fareed Zakaria comes along. Remember my joke? I calmed Democrats by saying all this was Trump protecting Obama's order and his honor. Because by gassing people, they crossed Obama's red line, and all Trump was doing was protecting Obama's honor. So you Democrats, does that make you feel better, I asked. I was joking with him. And here comes Fareed Zakaria, GPS, taking my joke and making it live as the exact reaction you should have. Well, what Trump saw was Syria in violation of Obama's red line in 2013. And Trump enforced it in precisely the manner that Obama had implied, which is why all the reasonable Democrats applauded Trump for doing this. So you wacko Democrats need to shut up, because this is exactly what Obama would have done, except it isn't, because Obama had countless opportunities to do just this, and he never did it once. So this is Fareed Zakaria, GP. He must have heard my joke. No, I take that back. He wouldn't have recognized it as a joke. He would have thought, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. Trump did this to save Obama's honor. And then he goes out and makes an entire show based on it. And I was simply trying to calm a bunch of Democrats who were about to lose their minds with Trump in charge of missile launches. I mean, that scares them. You know, Trump tweeting is one thing, but launching missiles, that's a whole new level of fear. So I was just trying to calm him. Hey, he's just protecting Obama's honor. Remember the red line? Thank you, Fareed Zakaria. You have made my day here. Fareed Zakaria, GPS, has made my day by bringing my joke not only to life, but making it live in reality. And then this final line, two senior Obama officials I spoke with told me that were Obama still president, he would have likely ordered a strike that was similar, if not identical, in scope. But he never did. Syria was allowed to cross Obama's red line, I don't know how many times. At least 8? This has made my day. So much so, I'm going to take a brief commercial time out a little early. Back here in just a second. Don't go away. Meeting and surpassing all audience expectations every day, Rush Limbaugh. Having more fun than a human being should be allowed to have. This is Jim in Cuyahoga Falls, Ohio. Great. Do you know who's from Cuyahoga Falls?
Who's that?
Tell him, Jim, who's from Cuyahoga Falls?
I don't know. Who are you talking about? Somebody that's from Cuyahoga Falls?
Cuyahoga Falls, besides you. Besides you, yes. Somebody from Cuyahoga Falls.
I don't know.
Try Chrissy Hind of the Pretenders.
Yes. We're the same age. We grew up in Akron at the same time.
Right. Or nearby, anyway, but she's from, sings about it.
Yeah, she went.
Nevertheless, in My City Was Gone. Anyway, what's happening, Jim? I didn't mean to disrupt your train of thought out there.
That's okay. I just want to say I love that idea of eliminating the FICA tax, and I think it would be a big hit with millennials. I think if you replaced it with something, say, an employer-employee contribution of, say, 5% each into something similar to a 401k, so that that couldn't be touched, and it would create vast amounts of wealth that Social Security just can't match.
No, that's not the plan. The plan is to create a new welfare program that's called Social Security, that is paid for with a brand new sales tax called, what are you guys laughing at in there? What is, well, that's what it is. Well, I may be being technical, but they're laughing at me, Jim, because I said the plan is to create a new welfare program called Social Security, but that's what it is. Right now, Social Security is technically not welfare because the contributions, they're not contributions, they're extortion payments. I mean, it's deducted from your paycheck whether you want to pay it or not. So they want to. It's not a contribution. It's mandated by law that they deduct it from your paycheck. You never see it. Anyway, theoretically, it's a contribution that you are making to your own retirement. It's not welfare. Well, if they eliminate that contribution by eliminating the FICA and the payroll tax, and they have to replace Social Security with something, it's going to become a new welfare program. And
I agree, but you'd have to grandfather in, say, people above age 40, but I think the millennials would like to see that money put somewhere else other than into what does Social Security pay, a couple percent, a percent?
Wait. I'm not making myself clear. There isn't going to be a replacement that is based on investments in 401k. It's a tax cut. It's a way of cutting taxes without cutting the income tax. You eliminate FICA, you're giving people essentially a 12% tax cut. And that's it. That's it. Then if you want to fund a 401k with it, you do it. But there is no replacement for it. It's gone. Social Security as a donation contribution program, gone. It has to be replaced.
I would still be for it. I would still be for it because the system is broken, and anything that would lead to changing it, I would be for.
What do you think really needs to be done with Social Security?
I think it needs to be phased out. I think we've learned through 401ks that vast amounts of wealth can be created for people to retire on their own terms instead of on the government's terms. And I think Social Security is outdated.
That's because you probably would be adept and skilled at investing and watching your money. But what happens to the poor sap? Let's say that we create an investment program out of the Social Security. Let's say that instead of, and let's just use what the number really is, 12% deducted from your paycheck. Let's say that 12% goes to a private investment account in your name that's run by Wall Street traders. Okay? And then some people choose to invest in Apple, and some choose to invest in Google, and some choose to invest in Facebook and live televised murders. And what happens if they lose everything in this investment account? Whereas you go gangbusters and go, what happens to the people whose investment accounts end up shrinking because of poor investments, bad advice, or typical Wall Street theft? What happens to them? They're just out, right?
I think you've seen with 401ks, though, that they've been pretty consistent. I don't know of too many people that have lost out with their 401k. Almost everybody I know has.
Let me ask this. I'm dead serious with this. I'm not trying to be provocative, and I'm not trying to be challenging. Don't misread my tone. Do you know anybody who has retired on their 401k and is enjoying life?
No, not personally.
Well, I don't either. Isn't that the purpose of a 401k? To put money away that you can't touch until retirement. But if you touch it prematurely, there's a penalty to pay, as in a tax. The 401k started, let's see, what was the first 401k? 70s? So we're getting to the point now where some people should be able to retire on their 401ks. I just don't know anybody who has.
Well, I think we're the first generation that's starting to see that. I think, and we've learned a lot through the years, and I think the next generation is going to use it more effectively than we did because there's been a learning curve. You know, it was a bold and new idea, and I think a lot of us didn't know what we had and how it could be used.
So let's say that your 401k is all you've got, and your retirement age comes up, and it's September of 2008. And here comes the great, so-called Great Recession because of the subprime mortgage crisis, and your 401k becomes practically worthless.
Well, I think what most advisors would tell you, as you approach your retirement age, within a couple years of when you're going to retire, you really should move your investments into more conservative areas so that you don't run that risk.
Right. Now listen to you. See, you are, sadly, in I really wish it weren't the case, a minority of people who understand you are not depending on a government program or anybody else for your retirement to the extent that you can. You are trying to grow it and maximize it as much as you can. But sadly, you know how many robots there are that vote Democrat? I mean, literally mind-numbed sponges who have bought hook, line, and sinker every promise the Democrat Party has made since they have been alive. And they fully expect that there's going to be retirement for them. Some of them are getting wise. But the vast majority of people aren't going to want to manage this retirement fund the way you do, the way you're talking about, talking to the advisor to transfer the funds into less risky areas, become more conservative, make sure the no loads don't get loaded too soon. You've just lost over half the country here. They don't want to have to do anything because the Democrat Party has assured them that they won't have to do anything. You and I can come up with any retirement program for everybody that is much better than Social Security, would run rings around it, which illustrates what Social Security really is. Remember who created it. Social Security was invented by FDR. And the purpose FDR had in mind was creating a program that would keep Democrats in power in perpetuity by making them, having them seen as the providers for the American people. Whether you looked at it, they didn't call it, I don't know if FDR called it retirement. I don't know how soon they started calling it that. But this was not a plan, they'll tell you now, that was devised to ever handle your full retirement. It was never intended for that. That's right, it wasn't. Supplemental this, supplemental that. It was designed to attach you permanently to the Democrat Party as a voter. And in that score, it worked. It worked wonders. Only in the last 10 to 15 years has that glue become less sticky. Democrats are having trouble with it, which is why all this talk about reforming it gets serious listen to. By the way, folks, this AP story on the Trump tax plan, just the eliminating of FICA and creating a new entitlement, a new welfare plan called Social Security, that story was actually released on April 10th. It's just the media was occupied with Dr. Dow being dragged off that airline for a week, and it kept under the radar out there. That's why I only saw it slithering to the surface of news feeds over the weekend. John in Memphis, it's great to have you, sir. Thank you for waiting.
Hey, Rush, it's great to talk to you. Thanks for taking my call.
You bet. Anytime.
Hey, you said, I think it was at the end of the week before last, that you were drawing a parallel between the left, between the Marxist left, and Sharia Islam, and that got my antenna up, got my radar going. I've done some reading. I've found a couple of articles that basically say that Marx and Engels were both absolutely admirers of Islam. They saw Islam as being a struggle, much like communism, between wealthy and poor, and they really liked the idea of the armed uprising, of the armed revolution. They liked the way that Islam ruthlessly put down those who did not bow to it. So you were right on target.
Well, that was actually a piece by Daniel Greenfield, writing at frontpage.org. David Horowitz's site. And Greenfield was making the case. It was all bouncing off of a realization here that the Democrats respect no authority. The glue that holds this country together, this was what I said in trying to explain Greenfield's piece. And I ask people to think about this. And I do this periodically because it's, to me, folks, it's actually kind of mind-boggling. We are a country now of over 300 million, 220, 40 million adults or whatever. And we are over 200 years old. And we're still as founded. Now, don't misunderstand. I know the left is trying to change all, but the point is, what is it that's held this country together? What is the glue? We are the only country like ours. And when we were founded, there was nothing ever even close. A constitutional republic. We have a document of not very many pages that says what is. And for hundreds of years, everybody that we've elected, with a few short exceptions, have honored it just because it exists. It's just a piece of paper. We could have at any time mistakenly elected a tyrant who could have come along and set it on fire, taken control of the military, and turned us into a country that most of the people in the world have had to live under. We could have been tyrannized. We could have been taken over by a tyrant or dictator. I mean a real one. The only thing that stopped it is that we elect our leaders who have to campaign for a protracted amount of time, plenty of time to find out what there is to know about them. We have a vast media that finds everything and then some about people. But even after these people pass that vetting, they get elected. And not a one of them has walked out on the Truman balcony and taken that Constitution and ripped it up and had a bunch of military people surrounding him and told us that we are now his subjects. It has not happened. Why? It's what has happened in practically every country on earth since the beginning of the time. Why not here? And the answer is there has been a common, accepted respect for the authority that is the Constitution. And that then can be said to be a respect for the rule of law. Now, to me, that's pretty fragile. That, for all these years, has required on human characteristics of virtue and honor. And you know how megalomaniacal people can be, megalomaniacal. They're people who want more power, and they're never satisfied. How have we escaped having a coup run by some overzealous tyrant? How have we escaped what most people in the world have lived under? And it's the honor system. It really is. It's respecting, it's revering. the Constitution. And that's why so many of us are worried, because there now seems to be a rising political movement that doesn't respect the authority of the Constitution. And it is today's progressive movement, which is housed in the Democrat Party. And in an effort to explain what Greenfield's point was, I cited some examples given by Andy McCarthy of how similar the American progressives are to Sharia Islam. And that is, there is no authority other than their own. The progressives in America today still have not respected the results of the election. They do not respect the authority of the outcome of the election. They live and breathe to overthrow that election because they didn't get what they want. The only authority they acknowledge is their own. Same thing with Sharia Islam. As long as the leader is devout Sharia, then he will be obeyed constantly. But if that leader strays, it's bye-bye leader. Hello, Anwar Sadat. Strayed, made peace with Israel. He was assassinated by militant Islamists, Sharia Islamists. And we are in a dangerous time here, as I acknowledged after the election. Precariously dangerous time. We have an outgoing administration that still has full-fledged power. We're waiting for Trump to be inaugurated, and you can see every day that the American left, the so-called liberal progressive movement, has no respect for the authority of election outcomes. They have no respect for the authority of judicial proceedings unless they agree with what they want. That's why they have angled to take over as much of the judiciary as they can. I think it's remarkable this country has lasted as long as it has, and because of the honor system. How many people have we actually charged in the modern era with treason? Mr. Greenfield, Daniel Greenfield, in the piece that I cited, was actually accusing modern-day progressives of committing treason by their very acts today. They are undermining and attempting to undermine the authority of this country, which is the Constitution. They simply do not respect any outcome that is not what they want. You can't reason with them. You can't cross the aisle. There's no compromise. That's not even possible. The concept is something that doesn't even occur to them. So that basically was what I was trying to compare the progressives of today in America and around the world with Sharia Islam as a means of helping people to understand just what we're dealing with in progressives in this country. Back in a sec, folks. By the way, I need to do a Sean Spicer impersonation and remind you that Hitler was a huge advocate of Islamists, militant Islamists. Militant Islamists in the Middle East met with Hitler. Same objective, anti-Semites. Well, it is what it is. I mean, the caller said that he had heard that the Marx and Engels admired militant Islam. So did Hitler. I mean, it is what it is, folks. Man, I don't know where the time goes. It's the fastest 3 hours in media, demonstrated each and every day. Folks, this was a slow news day. I mean, for the Trump presidents, this was a slow news day. This was snail news day. But we turned it into chicken salad here today, which is one of the things we constantly strive to. When somebody comes in every month, boy, Russia's slow news day, there's nothing out. That, to me, is a challenge. And, of course, I accepted that challenge. We overcame that challenge. We blew right through it. And we'll be back here in, 21 hours to resume with whatever happens between now and then. As an added bonus, you're told what to think about it if you want to.